Many school districts across the country are struggling to determine whether or not they'll be holding in-person classes in September in the midst of this coronavirus, and the virus is spiking in a lot of places. Some are moving towards a more hybrid model, a mix of in-person classes and distance learning. The Oakland Unified School District in California has been working on a similar plan for their fall semester, which is scheduled to begin on August 10th, just a few weeks away. Dr. Kyla Johnson-Trammell is a superintendent and is joining us now. Boy, I do not envy you because this coronavirus is almost sort of a moving target. Every day we learn new information about it, new information about its impact on children in particular. And so here you are. You have to make a call. School starts in just a couple of weeks. Tell us about the strong start plan that you guys have put together and what the first few weeks of school is going to look like for kids in your district.
Well, thank you for allowing me to join this morning. Really, the first few weeks, we unfortunately will be starting remotely. So we will be starting in distance learning, given the rise of cases in the Alameda County where we are located. And the starting strong is really about, even though we're remotely, still trying to retain some sense of normalcy, doing our best to creatively, in a virtual way, create relationships between teachers and students, ensure that we're able to devices, registration, and really begin to build that culture for the start of school.
Madam Superintendent, how and when are you hoping to transition students to in-person learning, and explain to our audience what some of the challenges could potentially be before you even get there?
There are a number of challenges. We've really anchored many of our decisions around what I've called the 4 S's, which is really balancing what we're seeing in terms of science, safety, the supports that our staff need, and student learning. And as I've said to my community, when you're looking at all 4, there are inherent tensions in terms of balancing. There isn't a teacher, there isn't a principal, of course, a parent. I'm a superintendent. I'm hiding in my closet having this interview because I'm homeschooling at home as well. That, we all want our kids back into school. But we are seeing in the state of California in many places rising cases. So there's the balance of really trying to do our best to mitigate the transmission of the virus while we are concerned about the long-term impacts of social isolation. So we're definitely looking at the guidance that we're getting from the state, from our county, what we're seeing in our surrounding areas, and continuing, even while we're in remote learning, to push forward with our plans for in-person learning, because there are many logistics that we need to balance, that we need to play out, continue to get feedback from our labor partners, from our folks on the ground, our teachers and principals in terms of how is this going to work real time in our school communities.
The president has at times threatened to cut funding to schools who don't resume in-person class 5 days a week, come the fall semester. We heard from Secretary Mnuchin that in discussing the next stimulus package, there may in fact be money for schools. I just kept on thinking, all of this is going to cost districts money, and typically school districts are not flush with excess money. We're talking about protective equipment for teachers and staff. If you need social distancing, then perhaps you need to put children in areas, locations of the school where they normally aren't. Maybe they have to be outside. I'm sort of curious about, are you concerned about the budget? Where's the money going to come from? Should the Trump administration to be punitive about money, is that going to hurt?
Absolutely. I mean, really, the kind of continuity of public education needs to be one of the top priorities right now if we are serious about ensuring that our kids get an education. And there are going to be investments that we're going to need, whether we're talking about the PPE, the safety equipment, whether we're talking about device distribution. There isn't an urban superintendent that I haven't talked to that is going above and beyond because our current budget and our current dollars aren't actually inclusive of both the devices that our parents and students need, the hotspots, the Wi-Fi, the tech training. So many of us are spending money that we know we don't have long term. Many of us, as we have done in Oakland, have been very creative fundraising with our mayors and our business community to fill in the gap. But that's one-time investments, and these are going to be investments we're going to need ongoing. And so we are very, and by we, I mean all the superintendents across the nation, we cannot get caught up in the politics right now. We have to stay focused, as we all are doing, in terms of thinking about what is it going to take to figure out when it is safe to bring our students back. And we're going to continue to advocate for the funding that we need to ensure that our staff have what they need to be safe, that they have the training that they need to teach in this very new way, where we are anticipating not only for this year, but possibly for next year, until there's a vaccine, that we're going to have to be dipping in and out of a virtual learning environment. And so there's a lot of new learning that we have to make sure our teachers have the proper support and other staff that are in schools to be able to do that, to be able to work remotely and provide that same level of quality for our students.
Superintendent, let me ask you, how involved are the parents in helping you come up with a plan? How are they feeling? Because I know that that's part of it, working with parents so that they feel comfortable in sending their kids back to school, but also with parents who, let's face it, there are going to be some who are essential workers, who are single moms or single dads, and are not going to know how to do this if the schools are closed. What's the message for them?
So we have, since the beginning of May, we've launched working groups to really think through all of the components in terms of coming up with a plan, as most districts are, that's hybrid, thinking about how do we keep education going in a remote environment, and thinking through what it will look like when it's safe to bring students back. Those working groups have been made up of parents, of teachers, custodians, and various administration. So, and we've also hosted many community meetings and surveys so that we could get a good a sense of what our parent feedback is like. Oakland is a very diverse district. We're diverse racially, ethnically. We're diverse in terms of our language population. And so we are being very sensitive to the fact that what one part of our parent community may want may not work for another part of our parent community. We have, at one point now, I'm stating this data point before some of our cases began to rise in California again. But initially, we had about 40% of our parents who were saying to us, we would actually like to stay and remain in distance learning. And we had about 60% that really expressed that they wanted to come back. And so you can see that it's not a monolithic group. And so we've really been trying to make sure that we have a sense of our special education parents. What are they needing? Our English language learner parents, our low-income parents, essential workers. Many of our staff have children as well. As I stated at the beginning, I also, I'm a mom in the system, and I have 2 kids. So we are working to do our best to try to provide a plan that is as diverse as our community in terms of meeting the needs. Right now, we know that there are many parents who are saying to us, we want to remain in a virtual learning environment, even if it is safe to be able to go back. So there's a number of logistics in terms of infrastructure for us to be able to do that as a school community, to be able to retain an ability for parents to have education remotely when we are able to transition in person. And so we know throughout the course of this very unusual time, we're going to have to keep those lines of communication open so that we can constantly hear what is working and what is not working for our parent community. And as I've said to both my parent community and my staff, this is really a time where we have to continue to be adaptive and nimble, because the conditions under which we're having to plan are constantly shifting, sometimes by the week, sometimes by the day.
Yeah, that is spot on about being nimble. Listen, before we let you go, I want to ask you about something else, another issue. The Oakland School Board voted unanimously to agree to phase out its police force by the end of the year. Not the only school district that has been looking at the use of police within the school. Tell us what that's going to look like moving forward, and how are you going to address issues of safety?
So we are going to be launching at the end of August a pretty extensive community stakeholder group that's going to involve various stakeholders in the city, that's going to involve many of our teachers and our principals so that we can, one, really come up with a plan around what an alternative safety plan will be. We've had many folks from city council individuals to folks who do youth development work and professional development within the city to community-based organizations. This has been a topic where many have expressed, hey, we want to be involved. So we're currently now building the structure for a robust set of conversations to really lift up what many of our principals have concerns. We want to make sure that those are addressed. Parents have concerns. Our students have concerns. And some of them are aligned. Some of them, as you can imagine, are at odds with each other. But it is very important that we develop a process to make sure that our voices are heard so that we can develop an alternative way to ensure that we have safety in terms of any issues that may occur on campuses, but also many of the mental health concerns that many of our students have raised and folks at our schools. We are anticipating that it's going to be a 2 to 3 month process, and we're working towards actually having an alternative safety plan to present back to our board by the end of December.
Really, really interesting and important information there. Dr. Kyla Johnson-Trammell, thank you very much for spending some time with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe.